Beating Pokemon, How Nintendo Intended It by PaPaSea.
Beating Pokemon How Nintendo Intended It to Be.
Ready for this.
I played a lot of games as a kid, like Mario Sunshine, The Wind Waker, and Sonic Heroes, but one thing that all of these games had in common for me was that I never actually finished them. I would get lost or stuck at one point of the game without knowing how to get through it, and since I was a kid and the internet was still pretty new at the time, I couldn't easily look up guides on YouTube like you could today. Back then, if you wanted help on a game, your best bet was to buy a strategy guide. There were so many different types of these in the early 2000s, especially for Nintendo games. I got a few of these as a kid and used them from time to time, but never actually read through the whole thing and read about exactly how they wanted you to beat the game. If you don't know what a strategy guide was, since they're not really around anymore, they were basically just a guide that told you exactly how to beat the game. I just used these guides at parts I got stuck on or to find any secrets or Easter eggs within the game. I recently saw a Minecraft video where somebody took a guide made by Mojang and used that to beat Minecraft exactly how they wanted you to.
Weird.
So in typical PokeTuber fashion, I'm going to take somebody else's idea from another game and completely spin it into Pokemon like it's original. I have this Prima guide on Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, which does have the Nintendo official seal of approval, which—
God, I love the official Nintendo seal of approval. Remember, the Dead Hand from Ocarina of Time. Officially licensed Nintendo product. All I'm gonna say.
It does technically mean that Nintendo endorses this product and that somebody at Nintendo somewhere read through this guide and thought, yup, that's how you beat Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green on the Game Boy Advance. I took a quick look at this guide before making this video, and it seems to cover just about everything you need to know about these games, even from type advantages to where to catch every Pokemon.
I do appreciate— is that Decode Talker? I do appreciate the Yu-Gi-Oh! Playmat.
As a kid, I cut out the page that had all the berries for some reason, so unless we need to do something involving berries, we should be good following this guide exactly. I'm going to try my best to avoid any prior knowledge I have on these games besides very basic type advantages and stuff like that, and I want to beat the game exactly how this guide tells us to. Now that I have access to all of the secret information Game Freak and Nintendo didn't want us to know about Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, like how you should heal before every Elite Four battle, didn't know that, and how Rock and Fire are apparently super effective against Poison. I really don't think they proofread these things at all.
No.
Alright, so let's just actually start up a brand new save on Pokemon Fire Red and see what the guide tells us to do.
I'm ready for this. Oh, this is so nostalgic for me. I can also tell on my Japanese Emerald copy, I need to find a good YouTube video on how to clean GBA carts, how to clean the pins and stuff. If anyone knows a good guide on that, please let me know. Feel free to leave in the comment section down below. But you can actually tell when if a cart is dirty because like you'll start it up, the Nintendo Restricted will be missing, the Game Boy will be garbled. Like oh, it's really fun to watch a dirty cart actually try to work because this screen gets really corrupted like Vinesaw status.
The strategy guide is pretty straightforward at the start. Name your rival, I named him Nintendo, walk into the grass and pick your starter. It did tell me to pick the potion up in the PC at your starting house, which was helpful, and say goodbye to your mother. And it also said to pick the starter I liked the most, so I picked Bulbasaur. I named it
Nice subscribe bit, I love that.
Which you should totally do, by the way.
Good stuff.
And I hammered away to win my rival battle, just as the guide said, got the parcel, caught a Pidgey, named it Twitter, follow me on Twitter by the way, link is in the description, and headed to Route 22 since it suggests that I catch a Pokemon here before the optional rival battle, although it doesn't tell me that the battle is optional. I caught a Mankey and named it Hawk, and then level up my Pokemon to be between level 7 and 9, just as the guide suggests. I beat my rival pretty easily, and there's really not much to be said in the Viridian Forest, but I do catch a Caterpie and name it Dan, and then head towards Pewter City. There's only one event in Pewter City, and according to the guide, it reads, there is only one event in Pewter City, but you can visit the nearby gym for 50 Pokédollars. It doesn't get you anything, but it's interesting. The Pokeball noted on the map is invisible, so search the area for it.
What?
You won't be able to proceed to the east till you complete the gym leader battle, so head for the gym.
I feel like I just had a stroke.
What? I found that wording to be really awkward and I'm not really sure what it means, but I headed into the gym battle anyway against Brock, and the guide says to have Pokemon between levels 11 to 13, so I do just that. Subscribe and Hawk handle the gym pretty easily, although surprisingly the guide doesn't tell me anything about type advantages or what types Brock's Pokemon are, so I just hammer away at him again, just like the guide says. I don't know why.
Oh my god. I feel like there was a meme or something about the Prima guide and hammering away. I vaguely remember this. Oh wow. So I guess how from an actual critical standpoint, right? Like how would you introduce type effectiveness, right? Like I'm trying to think, like if I was watching, say, like I don't know, like if like the Russian Badger did a Pokemon video or something like that, right? Or insert big stream Fleekazoid, right? Anybody, Maxor, right? How would you introduce that into a quote-unquote experience / review, right? Like where does type advantage fall in? Because on one hand, it's a core component to Pokemon battling, right? Type advantage and immunities, resistances, weakness, right? Especially things that are neutral, especially when you get into dual typing, right? But it's core and fundamental, but like it's also very complex to the point that we literally have the typing web. Like charts and stuff for it, especially in generations prior to like Gen 4 with the physical specialist. What happened where entire typings were special or physical? How do you insert that into a video or into like a walkthrough? I'm curious. I'm trying to like actively think on this.
Keep saying hammer away. I head towards Mount Moon, and on the way it specifically tells me not to buy the Magikarp in the Pokemon Center right outside of Mount Moon. Now,
wow.
I don't know about you guys, but I always buy the Magikarp. It's a tradition for me whenever I play a Kanto-based game, but since the guide says not to, I guess we're not going to because apparently they're so common in Kanto. I go through Mount Moon pretty easily as the guide tells me exactly where to go, which is pretty cool. Pick up the Dome Fossil because I prefer Chaos, and teach Hawk Mega Punch because it's a pretty decent move and I don't really have that many other options.
Yeah.
Now in Cerulean City it tells me to battle Misty, and I have to level up my Pokemon to be between levels 18 and 21, so I have to do a little bit of grinding. If only there was a group of nearby trainers or something I could battle for faster XP, like on a route up north or something, but since the guide tells me to battle Misty first, I'm forced to grind to the wild area and not head north yet.
Yeah, it'd be kind of weird. It'd be kind of weird if there was, an area to the north of Cerulean City, if they had trainers, to kind of prep you for Misty a little bit. Would be kind of cool. Kind of cool to, line your pockets a little bit, especially, maybe have something kind of like a reward for going the extra mile. Would be kind of cool.
Misty's gym was pretty easy since my Bulbasaur evolved to Ivysaur at this point, so that's 2 badges down already. The guide did mention to use grass or electric types in this gym against Misty, which was a lot more helpful than the Brock fight, but I really think it would have made a lot more sense for the guide to tell me to battle my rival first and go battle trainers up north so I can grind a little bit higher. But hey, if Nintendo endorses this, they gotta know better than me, I guess.
Yeah,
so after beating
sense.
Misty, I head north to fight Nintendo. Never thought I'd ever say that sentence, but it goes pretty smoothly. My Pidgey kept getting critted again. I don't know why my Pidgey has this knack for having terrible luck. It also got poisoned 3 for 3 times in the Viridian Forest, but Ivysaur was able to clean up. I was a little scared of this Abra, but thanks to the handy dandy guide, I looked up Abra's level up moveset, and apparently it has no moves to hit Ivysaur, so that was pretty easy. Charmander was the same, it was level 18 and didn't even evolve yet. What's up with that, Nintendo? So I beat the rival anyway, and now I have to head towards Route 24. Route 24 was easy.
That's technically the 3rd rival fight, if I remember correctly, because the first one is after getting your Pokemon, right? Your initial Pokemon. Rival 2 is west of Viridian City. Rival 3 is north of Cerulean. Rival 4 should be the SSN. Rival 5 should be Silphco. And then after Silphco, I think we get Rival 6, which is the champion battle, right? If I remember correctly. I remember watching someone, I don't remember, I think it was Jay Rose. I watched some of his videos, and he talks about Rival 5 being a huge roadblock for speedruns or just running the game.
Enough, I go help.
I miss Lavender Tower. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't remember. I'm trying to remember that. I don't remember how he did it. I honestly forgot Pokemon Tower. No, you're absolutely correct.
Bill and get the SSN ticket just as the guide says. I head towards Vermilion City, and the game has a lot of events for us to do in the city. First, we have to get the VS Seeker from this trainer of the Pokemon Center.
I miss it.
We'll probably never even use it. Get the old route so we can catch our own Magikarp if we want to now, but we still probably won't ever use this. And pick up the bike factory so we get the bike from Cerulean City. And then we have the most important event of this area, the SS Ant. The guide suggests that all my Pokemon be around level 20 for the rival fight, and since they are, I just go straight to the rival battle, ignoring most of the ship, although the guide warns me about Nintendo's powered up Kadabra, since it is quite fast. It tells me just to be faster than the Kadabra if I want to beat it. Wish I
Man, that Kadabra is so fast. Have you considered just being faster, Fivehead?
thought of that myself. Thanks, Nintendo. I beat my rival pretty easily, get the HM for a cut, and now it's time to go to Lieutenant Surge's gym. The guide recommends that I use ground types as they are super effective against electric Pokemon, but since I don't have any, I just rely on Hawk for most of this gym. I don't know why the guide didn't suggest I go through Diglett's cave before the gym to catch a Diglett, which happens to be a ground type, for this gym and collect some of the items in Route 2 that'll help me out later. But since I'm trying to pretend like I've never played these games before, I battle Lieutenant Surge first as the guide suggests.
And that's the big one with doing videos like this or doing challenges like this, is like, you might have metagame knowledge where Diglett Cave is like quite literally right there with ground types, which, you know, ground types are immune to electric attacks, right? And you would know that if you've played the game, or once again, also like address the basic type chart, right? Like even if you went off the beaten path, right? Like hypothetically, like, cool, let's go off the beaten path. Oh, hey, that's a Diglett. I don't know what that is, right? And let's say you catch it and you have no idea what a ground type does, right? Like where in game or where in the guide has it up until this point listed the type matchup and told, or at least informed you that there are immunities. Certain typings like ground are immune to certain other typings like electric, right? Like things like that, right? And that's really what helps build that experience for somebody.
I buy some Paralyze heals, it tells me to do that as well. And aside from getting paralyzed and double teamed so much, the gym really wasn't that bad. Now at this point, the guide gets a little confusing for me. It says that on Route 11, east of Vermilion City, I should go left and enter the Pokemon Center to heal, then go around the bend into Rock Tunnel. Rock Tunnel isn't on this route though, so I think that the guide got confused with Route 9, which the guide tells me to go to at the end of the section about Lieutenant Surge's battle. Turns out the tip that they have on the page about Route 9 is the same exact tip they had on Route 11 telling me to go around the bend, but it also tells me to teach Flash to one of the Pokemon on my team since I needed to get through the Rock Tunnel much easier.
Right.
There's only one issue with that though. I don't have Flash yet. The guide also didn't tell.
That's the big one for me. I was talking about this in another video. Anytime I go through Kanto at this point in time, I honestly just go through the entirety of Rock Tunnel without using Flash. There's one other interaction like that. Majora's Mask, when we actually ran our Too Many Rupees Majora's Mask randomizer run. And anytime I've tried running a randomizer in Majora's Mask, which one's Snowhead and Snowpeak? Snowpeak is Twilight Princess, right? So yeah, Snowhead. You know how you go there and you're supposed to use the Lens of Truth to climb the Goron rock wall, right? To get up to Darmani and get the Goron mask. You don't have to have the Lens of, actually, I don't think in any of my randomizers I've ever found the Lens of Truth. It's one that oddly hides from me. So what I do at that point to kind of fish a little bit deeper for items is I just have to memorize how many bars up and like bars like right and left I go. So that's actually another ism that I do, especially when I run Majora's Mask randomizer, is like I'll try to like climb that rock wall blind without the Lens of Truth. I don't know. I'm also stubborn.
Me anywhere as of yet where to get Flash. I know it's near the other side of the Diglett's Cave on Route 2,
right,
which the guide said was optional, by the way. But if someone has never played these games before, I can see them getting stuck at this point, especially if it was 2004 and they couldn't just look it up online as easily as they could today. Luckily, in the appendix at the end of the guide, it does tell me that I could find Flash on Route 2, and since I now have access to Cut, I can access it near the Viridian Forest. They really should have put more of an emphasis on backtracking to get Flash in the actual walkthrough. Like, it would have been amazing if they said, hey, before battling Surge, go through the Diglett's tunnel. You could possibly catch a Diglett here, which is good against Lieutenant Surge, and oh, by the way, on the other side, you get Flash, which you need to progress in the game. I ended up going back and getting it anyway, and I had to catch a few more Pokemon for the aid to give to me as I needed 10, one of which was a Drowsy I named Cletus, since I can teach it Flash. I don't know why I picked the name Cletus, it just seemed really fitting at the time. Headed into Rock Tunnel, and either this map is terrible or I have no idea how to read a map. Most likely the latter, but I couldn't figure out where I entered from. Turns out I actually entered on this ladder on the part of the map that's labeled the exit level, not the entrance level, and there's only 2 levels that you switch between. I get out as quickly as I can and get to Lavender Town after staring at the map for a good 5 minutes or so trying to figure out exactly where I was, but the guide tells me to ignore Lavender Town for now and head west to Route 18 so I can get to Celadon City. There's quite a lot to do in Celadon City now.
Okay, I actually think I remember how it works. Yeah, so you have the starting fight. Your initial rival fight doesn't really count. Rival 1 is going to be Viridian. Rival 2, Cerulean. Rival 3, Pokemon Tower. Rival 3, SSN. Rival 4, Pokemon Tower. Rival 5, Silphco. And then you go to the champion fight. I had to really think about that for a minute. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it would have made a really good aside in terms of like making a thematic trainer tips guide kind of thing, like trainer tips. If you're struggling with Lieutenant Surge, you can go through Diglett Tunnel and catch a ground type Diglett. Being able to catch it, ground types do have immunity to electric, which also helps introduce the concept of, type immunities, weaknesses, resistances, right? In the reader's mind a little bit, right? You also, if you get to the end of this, there's even a surprise that will light up your surroundings, wink wink, if you have 10 Pokemon in your Pokedex, right? And in a small little blurb paragraph like that, you've ended up fixing all of those issues by just providing a trainer tips blurb on the side of a walkthrough page.
Like, get this free Eevee, or steal it, because this guy's kind of just standing there and lets me take it. I don't really know why that happens. I immediately get a Water Stone as well and evolve into Vaporeon since I don't have a Water type yet, and I know I'm going to need Surf somewhere down the road. I also get the coin case and gamble like the guy tells me to, although you don't really need to gamble at all to progress in the game. I give the girl on top of the department store some drinks as well in hopes of getting a good TM like Ice Beam for my new Vaporeon, as the guy says I could get Ice Beam. I named the Vaporeon Joey, by the way. But I don't get any special TM unfortunately, so Joey is just stuck knowing Water Pulse for now. Now I head to the game corner and start the first big Team Rocket event. I talk to the grunt in front of the poster, beat them, and then notice an interesting note in this guide as I head down into the hideout. It says, there are no random encounters in the Team Rocket hideout, so all fights are at your own discretion, in parentheses, where possible. Which literally translates to, all of the fights are optional except for the ones that are not.
Yeah, I mean that's what that would say. But going back to Rocket Hideout, like I think there's a couple that you can miss, but I think most of them are pretty are in the way, right? Like they're actual certified progress gates, right? I'd have to go play through it again. I'm overdue for another Fire Red playthrough. It's been a few months.
Cue Nintendo. I make it through the Rocket Hideout pretty easily and prepare for my Giovanni fight. My Pokemon are all level 25 plus like the guide suggests, but it warns me about Giovanni's Kangaskhan of all Pokemon. I have a pretty easy time at the start of the battle, which makes me realize that these older Pokemon games really aren't any harder than newer games as people say, but the Kangaskhan does give me a bit of trouble. I thought Hawk, being a fighting type, would one-shot it, but nope, Hawk got one-shotted instead. The guy tells me to start hammering away anyway. Still don't know why I keep saying that for nearly every important battle, but I'm able to do it and defeat Giovanni and get the Silphscope so we can head back to Lavender Town. Now before heading to Lavender Town, we have to collect the 4th gym badge from Erica first. Since I have Twitter, this is a breeze, and I lay down the law as the guy suggests to get our 4th gym badge. I head to Lavender Town now, and Pidgeotto continues to be the hard carry of my team throughout this game. I dispatched my rival as the guide suggests. Great to see that the guide is using a different word other than hammer for once, and head up the tower. I try and catch the Marowak at the top, but learn the hard way that you can't do that apparently.
No.
Guide didn't say anything about that. And after that I rescue Mr. Fuji, get the Pokeflute, head south to go towards Fuchsia City, wake up the Snorlax, kill it because I don't care about catching it, and continue heading south. The guide completely ignores Cycling Road at this point, and looking ahead I still don't see anything about Cycling Road in the guide, which is a much easier way to get to Fuchsia City, but it does tell me to go behind Cycling Road where you can get Fly, which I immediately teach to Twitter, which also evolved to Pidgeot. I think it would have made way more sense to have me go down Cycling Road since it's quicker, easier, and there's trainers I could battle there as well, but we do exactly as the guide suggests and ignore Cycling Road. Now that I'm in Fuchsia City, the guide wants me to battle Koga straight away. It suggests that I level up my Pokemon to be between levels 35 and 37, so I do that for everyone except for Hawk, since I don't really think Hawk will be too useful against a poison type gym.
Oh.
It also suggests that I use Pokemon good against poison types, like psychic types, and fire and rock types apparently.
Oh, how much you want to bet that they meant ground? And that's what we've talked about this in some older Kip Reacts videos. How people do have contention that certain types are separate. How you have ice and water type. How you have rock and ground types, right? Like, I think it's one of those that it's interesting to debate about consolidating typings. I think the more I move away from prior conversations I've had, and I'm just more like, I mean, this is just Pokemon. This is how this is. Like, I would argue ice is more offensive. Water is generally more defensive. It does have offensive potential, but it is, bulky water types is an archetype for a reason. We have, rock types, which are going to be usually more aggressive. And usually when you're dealing with a rock Pokemon, historically, you've dealt with something that's more, like a fossil, right? And we have Pokemon Too Many Typings, bringing that a step further, right? And I think we had Ancient as a typing or something like that. I'd have to go back and play Too Many Types because I honestly don't remember. Not that that's actual game, right? But that's more fan game. But point being, it's definitely one of those interesting interactions because it's really funny when TCG players as well, because TCG has way less typings, right? Like if I were to look up, oh god, let me see here really quick. Pokemon TCG typings. We have, there's actually even a breakdown too. So we have grass, fire, water, psychic. Fighting is kind of encapsulating a couple. Darkness, it's not steel, it's darkness in the TCG. We do have metal, it is steel in, the actual games, but it is metal in the TCG. Dragon has been depreciated. Dragon was a type, depreciated, now it's back. Fairy used to be a typing, was depreciated, now it's back. No, was depreciated, never came back. Sorry on that one, we still don't have fairy typing back. But they also encapsulate multiple types. So like on the TCG, grass and bug kind of go into grass, and you have fire. Electric also is its own typing. I don't know, this chart's incorrect. Sorry, give me a second. Grass, fire, water, lightning, fighting, psychic, colorless, which is more normal typing, darkness, metal, and dragon. These are currently the active typings. That chart on the left is wrong on Reddit. But yeah, grass. This one's also technically incorrect as of what? Sun and Moon. Grass and bug consolidate into grass. Fire is fire 1-1. Poison used to be psychic, but is no longer psychic because poison has now been fostered into darkness as of like Sun and Moon format. Water is water and ice, lightning and electric 1-1. Fighting, rock and ground are all consolidated into that. That's why Garchomp. Historically, we've seen Garchomps that are colorless. That was Garchomp, Cynthia's Garchomp EX, if I remember correctly, back in Heart Gold, Soul Silver. But I didn't play during that format. Usually, Garchomps are fighting or dragon. Psychic is going to be psychic, ghost, and fairy at this point. Poison used to be psychic, but now it's that is darkness. Colorless, normal, flying, dragon, depending on the situation. Darkness is going to be a 1-1 to dark, as well as poison now. Steel and metal are 1-1. Dragon and dragon's a 1-1, and then fairy used to be a fairy 1-1. So the TCG definitely has some typings, but I mean it's a far cry when you look at the actual Pokemon video game type matchups. And if anything, I feel going into it from video game to TCG might be a little jarring at first, because I mean this is video game, right? We're used to this type chart, so it's really funny like showcasing what I just showed you with the Pokemon TCG type chart and how their typings match up, and then coming to this. It's really funny when TCG players go, "What do you mean this there's more typings? What do you mean these are the types that you have in this game?" It's wild.
Even though those last two types aren't even super effective against poison. I start the battle with Koga, and let's have a little fun and guess what the guide tells me to do against Koga. Does it tell me to A, dispatch him, B, lay down the law, or C, hammer away? The answer is C, hammer away. Hammerway is always the answer when you're in a Pokemon battle. The guide also suggests that I use Poison-type Pokemon against Koga's Poison types, especially his Muck, so I don't get Toxic because it's a very bad form of poison. Now, while this would get around being poisoned from Toxic, it doesn't help that Venusaur, my only Poison type, and most Poison types in general, can't really do much to other Poison types like Koga's Muck. Since the guide tells me to do this, I do it anyway, even though using Pidgeot is clearly the better option for this battle. I stall with Leech Seed on Venusaur anyway, and get through the gym pretty easily, although it does take quite a few turns. After getting the 5th badge, I head into the Safari Zone to collect Surf and the Gold Teeth, which I can then exchange for Strength, catch this random Parasect for no reason, which I'll probably never use, and that pretty much wraps up everything we need to do in Fuchsia City for now. The guide tells me to head back to Celadon City to get the tea from this lady so I can give it to the guards and then pass it to Saffron City. It probably would have made more sense to tell me to do this when I first got to Celadon, but that really isn't that big of a deal.
This really, I feel, is like an old games is old kind of thing because, like, you know, you can have, you know, all the soda pop, all of the, drinkable items in the... This is a very Silent Hill-esque interaction, right? Where, well... there's this ladder that's just out of my reach. You know, I can't go stand on a garbage can, or I can't go, you know, jump up and get this, right? I need this very specific hook I find somewhere in Silent Hill, right? And I use that hook to reach up and drag the ladder down. I'm still going to be working my way through the Silent Hill series. I know the interactions exist, right? But this very much is a situation like that, right? Where you have to know to talk to the old woman inside the apartment complex in Celadon City, and you have to know to talk to her so that she'll give you the tea. And then at that point, you recall, oh, the guards aren't letting me pass into Saffron City, right? Because, you know, they say all 4 of them say that they're thirsty, and then you have to bring the specific tea key item into the guards. It feels like a very Silent Hill-esque interaction, right? Like there's a bunch of sticks all around you, but you need the one very specific stick with a hook to bring down the ladder. It's one of those isms where I'm like, it makes me kind of smile, but it's also one of those things, if you told someone this in good faith, it's like, they're gonna look at you and be like, bro, what game are you playing?
First thing the guide tells us to do here is to take on the mini gym, aka the Fighting Dojo. Pidgeot and Vaporeon make this very easy, and at the end I'm rewarded between the choices of one of 2 Pokemon. The options are Hitmonchan, one of the coolest Pokemon in existence, and Hitmonlee, a cool Pokemon, but not nearly as cool as Hitmonchan, so I pick Hitmonchan, of course, and name it Jackie. Now we have to head through the Silphco, and luckily the guide has a cheat sheet for us that allows us to get through it rather quickly, while ignoring most of the trainers.
Silphco is always a time sink for me, because I'm that guy that goes through every single floor and defeats every single trainer. I don't know, especially going back through Oraz recently, off stream. I'll have some more Pokemon streams in the future, don't worry. But I've been going through Oraz and enjoying it. Like, I'll actually talk to trainers after, because trainers have their pre-battle dialogue. They have their defeated dialogue, and then they have their post-battle dialogue, right? Where it's like, you know, something about, you know, my Rattata is in the top 1% of Rattatas to ever exist. Fight, you know, you win battle. They either have dialogue depending if you win or lose the match, you know. So say you win the match, and it's like, man, couldn't hang. And then their post dialogue talks about how, you know, they're gonna have to train the Rattata to be even better, so it's an even better top 1% Rattata, right? So I've been going through some of that, and that's how I actually found the Tixie branch interaction in Silphco, and how it was super cool that even in Fire and Leaf Green to still see those real world parallels, right? That they had, especially when we were looking at an M&J TV video recently in regards to some events and stuff. And talking about how Mew coming from South America and stuff, and how after a certain point they just dropped all real world comparisons and all real world locations. It's super interesting to watch the evolution of Pokemon.
Towards the end, we have a rival fight, and all the guide does is trash my rival, saying how this fight should be so easy. It even goes in on his Execute and a little bit on his Growlithe for some reason, saying, quote, Execute is, well, a sad joke.
Whoa.
And if it thinks it's gonna help against the Elite Four, it needs its head examined. Pretty much the same goes for Growlithe though. It can be tricky against your grass-type Pokemon, so watch it. Not sure what whoever wrote this has against Execute and Growlithe, but the rival battle was pretty easy and wasn't much of a threat. After the battle, I speak to this chap, as the guide calls them, to get this Lapras, then proceed into the next room where Giovanni is waiting for us. The guide says how this fight isn't too bad, and how, quote, his Nidorino and Rhyhorn should go down fairly easily because their levels at this point are no match for a decent electric, water, or grass type. Seeing as I have a Vaporeon and a Venus— wait a second, did it say electric type? It did, didn't it? Against a ground type like Rhyhorn? I'll forgive this error since there hasn't been one in this guide for a little while, but I beat the first 2 Pokemon pretty easily. I hammer away at the Kangaskhan like the guide suggests yet again, haven't heard that in a little while.
Wild.
And now it's time for Giovanni's Nidoqueen, which is one of his strongest Pokemon as of right now. The guide proceeds to tell me that Nidoqueen is easily cooked with a fairly well-powered electric Pokemon, but I don't have an
Wow, back even in like the Prima strategy guide for Fire and Leaf Green, we're talking about how we're getting cooked. Nidoqueen is so cooked, chat. Oh my god, this is perfect.
electric type, and again, Nidoqueen is a ground type, so electric types won't help at all.
Yep.
That's the second time in this section alone that it tells me to use an electric type
Wild.
against a ground type. I finish up with Giovanni's battle pretty easily regardless, get the Master Ball, and now we have to head to Sabrina's gym to fight her. I get my Pokemon to around level 40 as the guide suggests, and follow the map to Sabrina through the teleporters. I thought it was funny how the guide also suggests I destroy the trainers before Sabrina. The guide writer just getting more and more savage as we get on to the later half of this game. My Vaporeon has Bite, so this gym really isn't too bad since it's mostly psychic types, but it warns me about Sabrina's Alakazam. It says, it's fast, and many of its moves can lay waste to your intrepid band in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. I have no idea what that means. But I get through this gym
Why are we getting all medieval about this? Like that's a weird one.
pretty easily again and head towards Pallet Town so I can surf south of Route 21 into Cinnabar Island. Now that we're in Cinnabar Island, the first event the guide wants me to do is revive my fossil, and I do that immediately, but just put it in the box right away since it's only level 5.
Yeah.
I know that I still have this level 5 Caterpie on my team that I've had since Viridian Forest and I've been using since Death Fodder, but since my team is really top heavy between Pidgeot and Vaporeon, I see no reason to replace it or add a new team member as of right now.
This is me, the last time I went through, because I've always gone through Fire Red. So when I went through Leaf Green, I was like, wait a minute. You know, I keep hearing about Starmie, because like I've always liked Starmie, even from the anime, right? Indigo League, right? Misty had her Staryu and Starmie. And I'm just like, I don't know, I always thought Starmie was a pretty cool Pokemon. I liked it, you know, just Starfish, Alien in its Pokedex entries as well. I don't know, I honestly really liked it. But I tried it in Leaf Green, and oh my god, it trivializes like a majority of the game. Anyone with poison type Pokemon, Team Rocket, some of the burglars and stuff, right? I mean, it just shreds them because Kanto is very poison heavy for whatever reason. I mean, also Gen 1 logic, right? That's why things like, you know, Meowth get access to like Thunderbolt and stuff. Why Tauros gets access to Blizzard and stuff. Like just old Pokemon is old, right? Not a whole lot of moves, not a whole lot of Pokemon. Only 151 back in the day, with Mew being the special exception of learning every single move. But like, oh, it is one of those like weird things, because I like tried out Starmie and I'm like, wow, okay, now I'm a believer. I tried using it with adaptability on, you know, for some like, you know, competitive like VGC status, but I could never find a slot for it. I could never justify it. And then I was like, all right, bet, let's try this in a playthrough. And I'm like, oh my god, it's amazing. It doesn't quite work in Emerald because, so I usually start with Swampert. Even when I don't start with Swampert, like, you need a good water type to progress through part of the game. Do you know what the earliest instance you can get a Staryu is in Emerald? If I remember correctly, it's like Lily Cove City. You know, after, you know, going through the first 4 gyms, going up to Fortree City, defeating Winona, right? Going down to Lily Cove City, on your way to Moss Deep City, you know, that one. And I'm just like, if you find it so late in the game, it's kind of null. It's a kind of a null and void argument for me, right? But I mean, honestly, if there's Starmie's in a game, I've started gravitating towards it because it is honestly like, it's always been a Pokemon I've liked, but it is just shot up in popularity for me. Like it's easily top 10.
We head into the mansion to find the key to the gym since it's locked, and the guide does a pretty good job of guiding me across it. I got a Growlithe and named it Rover, and now since my Pokemon are all mostly above level 40, it means I'm ready to take on Blaine. I head in the gym, proceed to one-shot nearly everything with Vaporeon, only going back to heal because I ran out of Surf PP, and Vaporeon is also slowly overtaking Pidgeot as being the best Pokemon on my team. I defeat Blaine very easily, get the 7th gym badge, and right after Blaine we have to head back to Viridian City to take on the 8th and final gym leader. It says that I should be at least level 45 at this point, and I'm close enough so I go in there anyway, but it also warns me that Giovanni has a level 54 Nidoking, which seems pretty scary because that's quite the level discrepancy if I'm only supposed to be around level 45. I go through this pretty easily regardless, and notice that the Nidoking is actually level 45, not
Okay, I was like, wait, I don't remember it being 54. I'm pretty sure it's like 40. I had to actually look at Vaporeon. I'm like, what stat-wise is causing Vaporeon to do this? First off, it has very good special bulk, especially in a generation, Gen 3, which is going to be before the physical special split happens. HP 130 is honestly very good. Electric type, so, electric itself is going to be a special typing, therefore matching up with your special defense, so it's going to be very good in that aspect. Sure, your physical defense kind of sucks, but you're also offsetting that by your HP and any HP investment you put into it. Also, a base 110 special attack isn't that bad. Sure, speed is 65, because you're doing actual base game Pokemon, you can just out-level things, right? Like, well, you might have a level 45 Nidoking, but I have a level 47 Vaporeon, right? That logic, right? As well as getting stab on things like Surf. Vaporeon is cooking this generation. It is wild. I was just looking at, why specifically is it doing this well? I think I'd probably still go Starmie. I've always gone either Bulbasaur or Charmander. I've been gravitating back towards Charmander, honestly, when I play through Fire and Leaf Green. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd ever pick Vaporeon on playthrough. I think I usually go... I don't know. I think I usually go Jolteon. But even then, I feel like Jolteon's place usually depreciates because it's so frail. I don't know. I'm gonna have to... I can't wait to stream Fire and Leaf Green again.
54, so it's just a typo. The guide really likes to make mistakes on Giovanni fights for some reason.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being overcritical since this is a 15-plus-year-old guide written by somebody who has probably played many other games and has written many other guides and can't know everything about every game they play, but if I've never played Pokemon before and I follow this guide exactly, I'd definitely be confused or lost at some parts.
Right.
Luckily, it doesn't tell me to use electric types against his ground types this time, and continuing on with the fight, I also realized that I've swept pretty much every single gym very easily since Lieutenant Surge, including this final gym, and I feel really good heading to Elite 4 for the last stretch of this game.
Right.
I stock up on some items before heading into Victory Road, but we have another rival battle to take care of first. The guide doesn't say much about this fight, so I get through it pretty easily, but have to rely on stalling out the Gyarados with Toxic and Leech Seed on my Venusaur since I can't really hit it too hard with anything else. I continue to hammer away as the guide suggests yet again for about the 9th time now, and it makes me wonder, who even wrote this guide? They have such a different style of writing for a guide with words and phrases I don't really see written a lot, and I'm sure that if they're involved with games media, they probably have a Twitter account or something. I noticed on the very first page of the guide it has the name Eric ECM Milonas. It's funny because when I first played through Fire Red as a kid, I actually named my character Eric for no particular reason. My name's not even Eric, and now the person guiding us through Fire Red is named Eric. I looked them up and the first result is an obituary. Eric unfortunately passed away in 2018 at the age of 43, and now I feel kinda bad for making fun of this guide so much.
Oh, now I'm sad.
Looking at some of Eric's other work, they actually wrote a lot of other guides for a lot of games I remember from my childhood. Fire Red and Leaf Green, of course, but then there's other games like Spyro, Enter the Dragonfly, Sonic Advance 2, Beyblade V-Force, and many of the older Dragon Ball Z games.
Beyblade V-Force is a wild GameCube game. I've actually played that one. I didn't play Sonic Heroes, which is one that I will get to at some point. But man, funny Beyblade game was wild. I very distinctly remember playing that.
Eric has a lot of other works in games media as well, and after researching a bit about Eric, they've done a lot of interesting work. So for the rest of this run, I'm doing it for you, Eric. I get through Victory Road pretty easily thanks to this cheat sheet Eric wrote for us in the guide. I catch an Onix since level 46, higher than some of my team members even, and I name it Rocky. I reach the end of Victory Road and decide to grind up a little bit to match some of the levels in the Elite Four. I level up all my Pokemon to around the early to mid 50s since I noticed that a lot of the Elite Four members have their Pokemon in the mid to late 50s, and now it seems like a pretty good time to recap the team. First, we have Subscribe the Venusaur, our starter that has been with us from the very beginning. Then we have Twitter, the Pidgeot, the first Pokemon we ever caught, and the Pokemon that carried us through the middle part of the game. Then we have Hawk, the Primeape, which hasn't really been used much since the Koga fight, but should be pretty good in the Elite Four. Then we have Dan, the level 5 Caterpie that's been with us since Viridian Forest. It was originally level 3 when I caught it, and I didn't try to level it up, but somehow I sent it in just to get knocked out to get a free switch, went for a tackle, and somehow actually got a KO and got some levels, so that's how it got to level 5. And I know I'll definitely need to send it out to die in the Elite Four to heal some of my other Pokemon. Then we have Joe the Vaporeon, which has been the best Pokemon on our team as of lately. And finally, we have the new guy, Rocky the Onyx. I step into the first room, and the Ice-type trainer Lorelei is waiting for us. I know Hawk should be pretty useful in this fight, so I lead with him and get a few nice KOs with my fighting-type attacks. Eventually, Hawk goes down, and this Jinx is a pain, just like Eric warned us about in the guide. I eventually hammer away at it with Vaporeon, and now it's time to fight Bruno. I use Twitter to take care of Bruno's fighting types, then Venusaur and Vaporeon for the rest of his team as they're weak to grass and water, and get through him pretty easily. And then we have Agatha, arguably the hardest member of the Elite Four thanks to her 2 Gengars.
Dude, Gengar is disgusting. So on the topic of, because I've been wild trade. Guys, did you know Kilowattrel has part of its animation where it actually sits down? You know the big complaint about flying Pokemon, especially after X and Y, how they just fly in the air? It's been wild to do the auto battling because sometimes I'll see something like Kilowattrel literally just like drop to the floor and start walking on his like little legs. It's so funny. But no, actually though, so because Gengar's no longer competitively viable, not to the same degree and not in the same ways, right? Ever since it lost Levitate, I think it gets Cursed Body now. It no longer gets Levitate as of Gen 7. That was a very big nerf to Gengar, but like. Gengar is disgusting. Gengar is the Pokemon that if I want to just mass auto battle, unless I'm really running into some kind of like really hard counter, like probably something, probably like a bunch of dark types or whatever, high level dark types, Gengar just shreds everything, and it's a little disgusting. Like Gengar's stat block is nothing to laugh at. Let me pull this up just so we can understand why Gengar is the way Gengar is. Once again, using Pokemon DB because I actually really like Pokemon DB. It no longer gets Levitate, it only gets Cursed Body at this point in time. 130 special attack. 110 speed. That is 8 base speed more than Garchomp. It also gets really good stab in both Ghost and Poison. Sure, it's on the special attacking side. Sure, it's not going to survive a lot of hits, right? Special defense 75 is okay. But like, for a base stat total of 500, that distribution is a little disgusting. Like... let's go Generation 3. What was its learn set? Let's see. It has access to Hypnosis, sure, whatever. It gets access to Mean Look, so you're able to keep things trapped in. Nightshade, damage done per level. Shadow Punch. This is Gen 3, so it shouldn't be physical. Unless Ghost was physical that generation. It might have been physical that generation. Interesting. That doesn't sound right, though. Is it really physical this generation? Not timid as nature. Timid Gengar is disgusting. It's great. It's so fast. Explosion. This is also pre-nerf Explosion. That's actually really disgusting to look at. Will-O-Wisp as well. Will-O-Wisp is fantastic. Even with that nerfed 75% back in Gen 3. Gets access to just really good stuff. Mimic. Metronome. Skill swap the funny, so you can just as you're about to die, you skill swap the slacking. A little disgusting. Yeah, Ghost was physical in Gen 3. That's interesting. That is so strange to me. I would assume it would have been physical, but I guess Poltergeist Haunting, I guess. Psychic, obviously, is on that special side of things, so Psychic's going to be able to pull from it. So I guess even in Gen 3, right, the Ghost side of things, it's not really doing a whole heck of a lot, because it's pulling from the base 65, which is the physical attack, but I mean, anything pulling from that special, like a Psychic, is just going to be screaming hot. It is just, wild.
I taught Earthquake to Onyx since Poison is weak to ground and Gengars are poison, thinking this would be a pretty easy fight, but then I remembered that Gengar and Haunter have Levitated in this generation, so I can't use ground-type moves to knock them out, unfortunately. This fight really was a team effort with everyone getting in on the action, but luckily Venusaur finishes off the final Gengar after a lot of my team members go down. I heal up and now it's time for Lance, the final member of the Elite Four. Eric warns us about Lance's hyper beams, although it really isn't that strong of a move in this generation. Lance has 2 Dragonairs, which Eric tells us to use electric moves on despite them not being super effective. Apparently everything is weak to electric according to this guide. But Vaporeon did a pretty good job in the fight though, since it has a super effective move for everything on Lance's team except for the Gyarados, which I again stall out with Venusaur. And now we have one final battle, a fight against our rival, Nintendo. Well, actually his name is just Nintend without the O since the full name didn't fit. Not sure why I'm addressing this now, not at the start, because I'm sure a lot of people noticed it was missing the O. But the guy tells me that my rival's gonna lead with Pidgeot, so I lead with Vaporeon since I have an Ice-type move, and take it out pretty easily, although Surf does more than the Ice-type move. The next few Pokemon go down pretty easily as well, but I have to stall out his Gyarados in the same way that I stalled out the one against Lance.
Actually, with Vaporeon, you'd be able to slap Blizzard on that too. That's a little disgusting.
And now, all that's left is Nintendo's Charizard. I decided to stay with my Venusaur even though I'm not at full health and try to finish this journey the way it began, with our starters fighting, hammering away at my enemy for one final time, just like I suggested in the first rival battle. I select my move with Venusaur, but unfortunately Charizard goes for Fire Blast and takes me out very easily, so I just send out Vaporeon and kill the Charizard instead. And that's it. We are now the champion, and we beat Fire Red and Leaf Green the way Nintendo intended, thanks to Eric and his guide that Nintendo approved of over 15 years ago. Not gonna lie, I felt a little emotional at the end there. I didn't end up crying or anything like that, but I haven't played through a Pokemon game like that on my own without doing a Nuzlocke or any other type of challenge in a long time. And although this was all for a video, I did still play on my own time over the course of a week or so and enjoyed playing it a lot. Finishing up this game this time felt a lot like when you spend all week binge watching a show you really like and then you finally finish it and feel a little empty on the inside. I did have a pretty easy time playing through it, but then again, I was following a guide and doing exactly what they said, and I have played through the Kanto region dozens of times before, even though I was trying to pretend like this was my first time playing the game. I think that's part of the reason why I enjoyed this playthrough so much as well. The guide took me through a slightly different route than I normally would if I was playing this on my own, and it just made this playthrough feel a bit different than other ones I have done in the past. This is one of the most fun playthroughs I've ever had in any Pokemon game, and even though this 14 or so long hour journey is going to be all condensed into a 20-something minute video, I hope you guys liked it too. So thanks again to Eric for guiding us through this game, and while there were many errors in this guide and things I definitely would have done differently, the guide still does a pretty decent job as long as you already have a basic understanding of Pokemon. I'm not really sure how to end this, but I have to say that this has been one of the most fun videos I've ever made, and I also think it's going to end up being one of the best videos I ever made. So thank you again to Eric for making this video possible, and helping countless people like myself through some of their favorite childhood games. We finally managed to beat Pokemon Fire Red the way Nintendo intended. So thank you all once again for watching, hope you guys have a great rest of your day, I'll see you all next time, and bye bye.
I honestly really love that though. I thought that this was super cool. I mean, I've watched some of PaPaSea's content throughout the years. Maybe I'd seen something about hammering away in one of his older videos. It's probably entirely possible. But honestly, this was just super cool to watch. And it was super cool to see just more Pokemon content. Like, I genuinely enjoy stuff like this. I genuinely have a lot of fun with stuff like this. And it's just really cool to see different perspectives on Pokemon. Speaking of licensed by Nintendo, the Dead Hand. But yeah, no, like this was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and hopefully a lot of you people did as well. A lot of you guys did, because this was cool. It was cool to see Pokemon played in a different way, and I think a guide like this would honestly be best if you already had a basic understanding of Pokemon. You had a firm grasp on, say, or at least an okay grasp on, type matchups and stuff like that. And if something didn't make sense, in terms of like using an electric type on Giovanni, right, on some of his Pokemon, right, you had the the common sense and the ability to just override. I don't really want to do that, right, and like you're following a guide, but it's simply that, treating it as a guide rather than you need to follow this verbatim to beat the game, right? So I think that's a good way to really look at that. But thank you everyone for watching. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I thoroughly did as well. Let me know if you want to see more reactions to some of these, and I will see you all in the next one.